The Yellow Brick Road. This video does not reflect the actual views of real people. These are actors playing a role to entertain audiences. No persons or animals were harmed in the making of this video. Gosh, I love YouTube and I love Google.
Welcome to the Yellow Brick Road. I am Jordan. And I hate saying intros like that, as you can tell. So, yesterday I did a video on Jimmy Dore and the whole drama with, David Pakman calling him toxic and Sam Seder being Sam Seder. No offense. And it got, for us, for our, small channel with 60 subscribers, we got a decent amount of views for it, for us. And this is me sort of hoping that people don't run away because of the next topic I'm going into, which is going to be something I think is fun and a lot of people should get into, but I think it scares people away, which is religion. And in particular here, it's going to be a lot about Christianity. Me personally, I'm not religious. I would say I'm spiritual, and I like metaphysical ideas, and I love philosophy. And I think that's a healthy thing to look into. I think, in my opinion, all people should look into metaphysics and philosophy. It doesn't have to be like reading whoever's book or some religious book, but just ponder about it. Just think about it once in a while, But, yeah, see, what's weird with our channel is that we jump from random topic to random topic, right? We're talking about boxing one day, talking about UFC, then we're talking about, Coach Red Pill, then we're talking about politics, now we're talking about philosophy and religion. And to those that are, shy about religion, I think you should just look at it like stories, like poems or artworks or, a giant screenplay. I look at the Bible like a giant screenplay. And I'm looking for like hero characters and villains and shit like that. It's a superhero movie. You don't hear people really shy away from like The Dark Knight or The Matrix or whatever, even though the same elements are in these movies that are in the Bible or in other religious texts and philosophical texts. So that's my plea. Don't give up. Stay with me. Okay, so today I'm going to analyze Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris speaking about religion, and more specifically Christianity. And it's basically Sam Harris grilling Jordan Peterson on why he's so stuck on Christianity in particular. And, well, I don't want to explain too much further. Let's just watch the video.
Yes.
Part of your argument is, and validly so, is how in the world do we determine which revelatory axioms are worthy of respect and of maintenance? And fair enough, Sam. But
maybe none. Maybe not revelatory. Maybe it is just a matter of conscious agents like ourselves having better and better conversations.
Well, it is certainly partly that. It is certainly partly that. But let me explain.
Because again, revelation in my book is nothing other than the record of past conversations. So you've either got Iron Age conversations shaping your worldview, or you have conversations like these shaping your worldview.
Or you have both. You can have both.
Yeah, but
then you have it.
That's where, so far, I would agree with Peterson on that. It's like, why not consider both? Which is why at the beginning of this video I'm saying, like, don't just throw religion away. Like, if the ideas are too harsh, just look at it like a movie or script or something. Like, turn it into art rather than a book that's demanding you to live a certain way. That's just what I do.
dialogue with the past.
Which brings me to Marcus Aurelius. I read him with great pleasure and astonishment, frankly. I mean, it is such a modern and edifying take on ethics and one's own personal well-being, and just not being encumbered by thoughts and vanities that are so easy to cut through once you notice them, but so captivating and deranging of your life when you don't. And there's more wisdom in that book than almost any book I can name, and you don't have to believe any bullshit to honor it and use it.
Let me off.
So Harris basically saying, why does it have to be Christianity in particular? There's a whole bunch of, ancient works that you can get some form of information from, and without the BS of, hating gay people or whatever the fuck they did back then, stoning people, that shit.
For you a continued explication here. And you didn't answer my question about what all these crazy medieval people were doing, spending almost all of their excess capital, building a representation of the sky and putting an image on that. So just hang on a sec. So let's talk about what it would mean to embody the truth. So there's a deep idea in Christianity that this is what it would mean. It would mean to confront the suffering of life voluntarily to its fullest, which would mean to accept the necessity of death and betrayal at the hands of your fellow men without undue bitterness. To accept that voluntarily and to still understand that your fundamental ethical task is to work towards the redemption of the world. And that's associated with that image that's cast upon the heavenly dome. And that isn't a charitable reading, Sam. That's an essential analysis of the fundamental doctrines of Christianity.
Yes, but I could do...
Okay, so that's... Peterson's rebuttal is basically, yeah, there are all these ancient works and there's other religions and all that, but Christianity just embodies what the actual truth is. I believe that's his perspective.
Do the same thing with Buddhism and give you a slightly different story, but nonetheless inspiring and edifying. And I could do the same thing with.
You can't do it with rationality.
But I can do it with Greek. No, that's not true. I can do it with Greek mythology. I can do it with any of these domains. But the crucial bit for me is that in order to make use of those stories, I don't have to believe in Revelation. I don't have to believe that you get everything you want after you die.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so I think Peterson brought up something very important. But you can't do it rationally. That's an important point when discussing, religious or spiritual ideas or philosophical ideas, certain philosophical ideas, leaning more towards the metaphysical. You can't bring your staunch, logical, rational conclusions to everything because the answers aren't rational, right? In fact, the answers are meant to be ethereal, right? Non-physical. So you can't just hold them down and study them, right? Even something simple as like happiness. You can't really have a cup full of happiness and hand it to another person and say, this is how I feel, right? It's sort of an irrational thing going on. So I think that's a point he should have stuck with and really, held Harris's feet to the fire on that one. But who knows? I don't know.
Right. Suggesting.
No, but I'm talking about the applause of conventionally religious people who think that their conventional religion is in some way cashed out or redeemed or supported by the reading you're giving now of Christ in the starry heavens. It's not, unless you're adding this other piece, which is some probabilistic claim that, yes, this book probably was dictated by an omniscient being, unlike any other book.
Well,
or maybe the Muslims are right, that Archangel Gabriel did show up to Muhammad in his cave and give him the one final revelation, never to be superseded. And just on the merits of the text, we know that's not true. We know for all it gets wrong and all it fails to get right about the nature of our circumstance, we know that book is not the best book ever written on any topic. And here I'm speaking of the Quran, but it's true of the Bible. It's true of the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. But no one's claiming that about the Meditations, and that's a crucial difference. It's a difference that explains so much unnecessary suffering in our world. And again, what I fear about the way you talk about religion is that at the end of all these conversations, I'm still not sure what you believe on that point, frankly. And if I'm not sure, no one out there is.
Well, what?
Yeah, Peterson should have just stuck with that rationality argument, because I think he's going to lead towards, because Peterson's so heavy with just sticking on the Christianity aspect that Sam Harris he can easily just tear that apart, right? Like theoretically anyone could have came up with it. What Peterson needs to do is stick to the irrational, right? These ideas are irrational, they're ethereal. So he could explain it by saying, instead of looking at it as words formed together, look at it as experiences being described, to where obviously the best you can do with words, I would think, for something irrational is to use metaphor, which is why I think there's a lot of metaphor in these religious texts. That's the avenue I would have went with. Yeah.
I don't know why you would expect to be sure about what someone believes. How do you think that any one of you are capable of fully articulating what you believe? You certainly aren't. You are not.
That basically what I just said.
That's completely ridiculous. You're not transparent to yourself by any stretch of the imagination.
It is possible. That's my woo-woo. That's my religious belief. That yes, it is possible to be completely transparent with yourself. It just takes a shitload of work. And it all depends on what type of person you are. But I think most people, I doubt you'll find it in a religious text somewhere. I think it's just more of what you're into. I happen to, my father was pretty, he didn't make me go to church or anything, but you can tell he's into religion and stuff. But he never forced it on me. But so later on, I was like, let me look back at this stuff. Let me see what's up. That's where I can see certain things in those particular religious texts, the Bible and whatnot. But for other people, they don't have to exactly do that. They could find it through whatever, film, music. I do it with those two, music, film, yeah.
You act out all sorts of things that you can't articulate.
But how about a best guess? Yeah.
If you look, let's go all cognitive neuroscience on this, shall we? 99% of your processing is unconscious. You're not capable of articulating yourselves. If you were, you'd be omniscient.
Okay, but
that's sort of my woo-woo idea. Maybe you can truly you can truly articulate yourself. It's just other people won't be able to understand you. Right? You'll be so clear to yourself, I'm saying this directly. When I say this, I mean this, and you know it. But the person you're talking to will have no fucking clue, because they have to develop their own language develop their own language when they're in conversation with themselves, right?
Don't give me any nonsense about that.
But that is a... I've never heard so many people applaud an evasion of a...
Sam Harris destroyed.
Of a simple question.
It was a good one.
Yeah. Okay, honestly, yes, everything you just said about not being fully transparent to yourself is true, and you are ruled by committee in there all the time, no doubt. But I'm asking, what you actually believe. I mean, there's several things I can ask. I mean, almost any one of these threads can pull the whole tapestry. But to take Christianity as an example, what do you believe about the origin of this sacred book, the Bible, Old and New Testament? Do you believe that just maybe it has a status unlike any other book, or is it simply old writing of human beings just like ourselves?
I think it's both.
Okay, so but so what does that mean? That you're saying that there's somebody who's taking dictation that is unlike any other dictation. So Homer, though creative, or Shakespeare, though creative, was doing something else.
It's not like we understand the sources of inspiration.
Okay, but, but everyone's been inspired.
If you talk to creative people,
yes,
they often describe themselves as something approximating a conduit through which higher wisdom is pouring.
Yeah, but he's not answering Harris's question. Harris is saying, yeah, but can't that be anybody? Why does it have to be specifically Christianity in the Bible? And I agree with Harris on this one. Again,
you're dodging. Shakespeare could say that, and any writer can say that, ultimately.
Yes,
right?
and it's also the case that we would rank order those writers, which is why you pointed to Shakespeare, in terms of the generalizable validity of their revelations.
Sure.
And so, well, look, so you run into the same issue. You criticize the Bible, and look, fair enough, but you're also evading a very important issue, which is how do you quantitatively rank the contributions of literature without assuming that there's a hierarchy of revelation?
Okay, so I'll do my best to translate. Harris is saying that there is no, or he's saying that why can't any of these other type of writers come up with the same concepts, these same, according to Peterson, sophisticated ideas as Christianity? Why can't a Shakespeare come up with that? And Peterson's rebuttal is, yeah, Shakespeare could come up with the words, but can he come up with the meaning? Like, really the meaning to where, I mean, he'll say it later, Cain and Abel was written in like 10 sentences or something. This, according to Peterson, this like awesome story with all this depth to it is only a paragraph long. So, I mean, I understand what where he's trying. I think he's just sticking too close to Christianity. He's being a Christianity fanboy. That's what it sounds like. It's the only explanation I can think of, because I hear things I consider spiritual or metaphysical. I can hear that in music or film.
Well, there's a hierarchy of wisdom. Sure, there's a hierarchy of human wisdom. I will grant you that every day of the week. But But we're talking about.
I agree.
About primates like ourselves having conversations, and this is the most important game we can play. I mean, this is the best game in town, and it has always been so. But people are imagining, and it includes, as you said at the outset, what I would call spiritual experience. And spiritual experience admits of a fact-based discussion about the nature of human consciousness. And
why do you allow that as an exception? Because
it's not an exception; it's part of the data set. So it's possible to have
So this is spiritual experience without the possibility of concretized revelation.
No.
So it's a formless spirituality that you're advocating.
No. He's just saying you don't have to say your Hail Marys and eat your bread with your wine. All that stuff is just window dressing, man. Those are words. What's important is the meaning underneath the words. And I think that's where Sam Harris is going, that it doesn't have to just come from Christianity and their rituals and the way they speak about things. It can come from, like I said, film, music, just walking down the street. Why not? You could have some sort of revelation pop into your head from that. Who knows?
No, you can have. I'm not even discounting the possibility that there are invisible entities out there in the universe far smarter than ourselves who we could possibly be in dialogue with. I mean, there are many strange ideas that we could defend to one or another degree. I mean, there are people walking around speculating that we might be living in a computer simulation, that all of this is being run on some hard drive of the future or some alien supercomputer.
That's the first I ever heard Harris say anything like that before. Like, I'm not even denying blah, 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 that, what is objectivity as far as externally? What does that mean? I've never even heard him consider that. And that's a positive to me.
Now, that, you can actually, Nick Bostrom at Oxford gives a very cogent argument in defense of that thesis. Right? Now, you can deal with that on its merits. I'm not saying the universe isn't stranger than we suppose or even can suppose, but one thing we know is that when you read the Bible, you can turn every page of that book, and you will not find evidence of omniscience. You will not find anything in there that someone as smart as Shakespeare, or actually a little bit dumber, could have written.
No.
Now Harris is losing me, because I think there is something there, and it's not about. And as far as wisdom goes, it's not based on what I think Harris means by intelligence, right? I think it's more about experience, where that type of intelligence, that spiritual understanding or wisdom, is based on experience rather than I don't know. I happen to have this type of IQ, right?
No, I don't think that's true.
Right. If you take someone with like 150 IQ, but you never teach them English, then you throw them into English class, like, it'll take time. You need the experience of it, right? It can't just be what I think he considers intelligence, which is basically memory. Like, how good is your memory? Yeah.
Sam, they're incredibly whatever else you might say about the biblical writings, they're incredibly potent narratives embedded within them. It's impossible to write something, virtually impossible to write something like Cain and Abel. It's a paragraph long.
So you're saying the Shakespeare?
It's like, no, it's not impossible, Peterson. Now I'm like making it sound like I disagree with both of them. I think I basically am. But they both have some decent points, too. It's like, fuck. No one ever gets the right answer. Based on my opinion, that is.
The Shakespeare of 3,000 years ago couldn't have written Genesis?
He couldn't have written Cain and Abel, not in 10 sentences.
So then who
Cain and Abel is 10 sentences long.
So then
and it contains more wisdom than you can dig out in a lifetime.
So now we're getting to the nub of it. Then you think that was not the product of a human mind?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say words, have so much wisdom. I mean, like Peterson was saying, like, it's hard to articulate the full scope of a person, and then it's hard for them to articulate themselves, and then imagine them writing it on paper for someone else to try and understand. That's why metaphors are I think are the best thing to use when you're trying to express a metaphysical or spiritual idea. But yeah, it's not mutually exclusive to Christianity. Christianity is not the king on top of the hill. It's more of certain types of people who've experienced certain things, and they use their own language to try to express it or tell other people. Or maybe not even tell other people.
I think it was the product of a vast collection of human minds working over millennia.
Okay, so we have a committee of Shakespeare's.
That's Peterson's, see, I remember the theory correctly, that, okay, you can see God in the world, but you can't see it in a small period of time. It's just not it's not large enough of a sample size. You need to see the entire scope of something in order to see how God is, what he considers God or whatever, working in the world. Even though I disagree with that, I sort of see what he's saying. He's thinking more of like looking at God in a almost like biological evolution, to where you can see the experience of, I don't know, a caveman. I don't know, a caveman trying to pick up wet objects, and it led to us today to where we have, fingerprints and all that, so we can grab wet objects. I learned that from a friend. But I think that's what he means by God. You need that large sample size so you can see the evolution, then you can see the just noticeable difference, and you can say, oh, there's God right there.
So, but still, we're just dealing with people. We've just got people.
Well, but
this concession, if indeed you're making it, and I'm still not sure, is the eradication of traditional Christianity.
Look, if something is deeply wise, it's reflective of a deeper reality. Otherwise, it wouldn't be wise.
I'm in love with deeper reality.
So what's the deeper reality that something as wise as the story of Cain and Abel reflects? What's the reality?
A landscape of mind that that either takes great training, great luck, or pharmacological bombardment of the human brain to explore. Right? There are ways to get there. There are ways to have the beatific vision, right? And we understand this to some degree experientially, and we can understand it to some degree by third-person methods of science. And it's not like I don't know. I mean, I've had many experiences that, if I had them in a religious context, would have counted for me as evidence of the truth of my religion, right? But because I was not brought up in a religious context, and because I spend a lot of time seeing the downside of that form of credulity, I have never been tempted to interpret these experiences that way.
Try a higher dose.
Yeah, believe me. Yes, I'll go. I'll play that game of poker with you all day long.
You'd be surprised, my friend.
Yes, well, maybe.
You're gonna have to ask about Q&A.
Maybe there's our next podcast.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, if you don't have...
Ooh. Oh, go support Think Club. That's the video I stole to make this video. Yes. So it's pretty interesting. They're basically firing at different ranges, man. One shooting up here and one shooting down here, which is why it's never connecting. They're just missing each other's points, I think. Harris is saying that it's like, well, why do you need traditional Christianity to dive into these sophisticated ideas, right? I can go and read Homer or whatever tale, or for how he said Marcus Aurelius. I can look into these historical things and get similar takeaways as I would if I just strictly followed Christianity. I can get but without the BS, without the stoning people and things like that. And Peterson saying, okay, but what about the meaning of it, right? What about the meaning, the full understanding and the meaning poured into whatever text, whether it's Homer or Shakespeare or whoever? Are they putting the same meaning on it? Is there like a dire, like, this information has to be said, like, this is so important. I'm not doing this to be poetic or anything like that. This is the foundation of life, and I have to tell you, and I'll do it. And I'll do the most, for him, I guess, wisdom-drenched words I can possibly use in a certain way, so that it's able to interpret as there is no other meaning other than this spiritual principle or something like that. I could be fucking that up. Whatever. Point is, interesting video. Both those guys are very interesting. I don't agree a lot with them on quite a few things, but I do agree with some things. Yeah, that's it. Subscribe if you feel like, comment, and as always, come on, can we get 200? Thumbs down.